later this afternoon, you'll get an email from me that has, it will take you to our session resource page. Our slides will be on there, as well as the recording of this session, so that you can go back and watch it if you need to. You can also share this with other people so that they can see and learn alongside you. So if you have a coworker or whoever it might be who could benefit, pass it along. And then finally, we're all in this together. We have our students. It doesn't matter where in Virginia they live. We are here to help meet their needs, and together we can make that happen. Okay, so now that we've talked about all those important norms and kind of we're all on the same page, we're ready to move into our different tools. And we're going to start things off with Google Drive. So I did mention that we're going to sneak in one extra tool, and today that is Google Drive. And it's important to be able to understand what Google Drive is before we start using the tools that are built into it. So what I'd like to do real quick, and this is always a fun game for me. Can I get a volunteer who would like to unmute their microphone, maybe turn their video screen on, and explain to me what the cloud is? Can anyone do that for me?
Hi, my name is Frida. Can you hear me?
I can, Frida. How are you?
I'm fine.
Yeah.
The cloud is like a storage space where it keeps all of your documents and forms, etc. Out there in space.
I love it. I love it. Okay. So the cloud, we're able to work on pretty much any device that is connected to the internet and be able to access these files that are in space, right? And that is truly amazing. And Frida, I loved that you were using these hand motions to explain the cloud. And I do that same thing. Okay. So when we talk about the cloud, for a lot of us, I don't know what I just did. For a lot of us, we are talking about putting our files that are already on our computer into the cloud. Or being able to take things that are on the cloud and put it back onto our computer. So for these terms, we might say upload from our computer to the cloud, or download from the cloud to our computer. And that's exactly what we do when we're streaming music or we're watching Netflix or whatever it might be. And we do that same thing with our tools and with our classroom materials too. And I love that we all use our hand motions to talk about it. But you nailed it. That is exactly what the cloud is. So thank you with that. And it all just saves automatically, which if I remember back to 2008, when I was told I no longer had to click that blue diskette in a Word file to save something, and it just saved automatically, my mind was blown, right? And our students today don't even know what that floppy disk icon means. They're not accustomed to saving anything because it all just automatically is saved in the cloud. Most of these materials are collaborative, where multiple of us can all work at the same time from anywhere in the world, and how amazing and liberating those things can be. Okay, so this is Google Drive. This is the logo here. What I'd like you to do right now is go to drive.google.com. You can get there a couple different ways. So whichever way you know how to do, go ahead and do it. But if you are unaware of how to do it, you can use drive.google.com and it will take you there. So let's all take a couple moments to head to Drive, and we'll do a quick run through of what this amazing tool can do for you. All right. So right now I'm in my Google Drive, and what we talked about before, it is the cloud, right? So we can put any type of file into Google Drive. It does not have to be docs or slides. We can put videos, we can put sound, all sorts of things can go here. Now, when it comes to what we can create within Drive, we do this by going to where it says New. And when we do that, the first thing that it encourages us to do is a folder. So we know that we can add structure to our Google Drive, and we can share folders with people. We can have subfolders and have a lot of structure with that. We can also upload a single file or an entire folder, again, that can be complex and have different subfolders, and it will keep all that structure for us. But we can do that with these two buttons. Remember, upload is taking it from your flash drive or your computer and putting it into the cloud. So you can access it from your phone, from your laptop, from whatever it might be. Then we get into our three main Google Drive tools. That would be Docs, Sheets, and Slides. If you're coming from the Microsoft world, we have Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, right? So that would be the easiest way to compare these. Then we have More. And More is where we see some of these other Google tools that you might hear about, but we don't use all the time. So it might be forms, drawings, you can make maps and do some cool things here. We have things like Google Sites and also Jamboard. So lots of different choices, and then you can add in other apps from other companies too, but those are kind of the main ones that all of our students would have access to and that you have access to as well. Some other things to know when we're looking at Drive, shared with, or where it says My Drive, these are all the files that you own, that you've created or uploaded. You can see that I have many of them in here. And if you are using a school account, you have unlimited storage. So you can put as many large movie files in here as you want, audio files, and you'll never run out of space, which is a lot different than our computers or our phones, right? We take photos and videos on our phone and we quickly run out of space. You won't have that problem in Drive. Then we get things like Shared with Me, and my friend Eric might say, I need Adam to have access to this file, and I can go to Shared with Me and be able to find that file that Eric has shared with me. It is taking a second to load, but that's where I would go to find it. Then I have Recent. I think that kind of explains itself. Here are the things you've been working on in the last couple days or weeks, and be able to quickly find it. I use that all the time to be able to find, well, here's the grad school assignment I'm working on, or my slides that I'm presenting right now. We have options for starred. So these are my favorites. A lot of people will star the folder for their upcoming unit so they can continue to build and find it very quickly. Or maybe they star, here's our unit guide, or how I'd report grades at the end of the 9 weeks. And that way they can just go click, find all the important things they need, and they're good to go. So I'm going to head back to My Drive at this point. And the final thing I want to highlight within Drive is where it says Search in Drive. So Google makes Google Drive. I don't think that's a secret. When we click on this downward arrow, we're able to take advantage of Google's searchability directly within Drive. So we get things like, we can filter for certain types of files. So I can say, I only want to be able to see slides presentations, or I only want video files, whatever it might be. I'll do presentations for right now. We can say the owner is owned by me, or it's owned by Eric, and I can tag a specific person. Maybe it's my principal. I need to find everything they've shared with me, and so forth. So it makes it very easy to find exactly what it is we're looking for, whether we're using our folders or just simply having everything in here at the same time. Okay. So now that we've seen how we can use Drive, we're going to transition a little bit and start working with Docs. Okay, so I'm going to head back to our slides, and note that we do have a short video in here about how we can organize and search within Drive, so that might be helpful moving forward. Maybe you or a coworker could benefit from it. But now we're going to start looking at Google Docs. So here's a very short video that I'm going to share with you about Docs. And again, I'm aware that a lot of you have probably been using Docs for years and years, but I do want to make sure that we see what Docs can do.
In this lesson, you'll learn about Google Docs. Docs is an online word processing tool that offers real-time collaboration and sharing. Docs can be accessed, created, and shared from any device, including a smartphone. Best of all, Google Docs is cloud-based and your work is automatically saved, so you never have to hit save again.
Okay, so again, just a very short, here's an introduction to what Google Docs can do. And now we're going to jump into Docs, and we'll take a little bit of time to walk through how we use these tools. Okay. So what I'd like you to do, and if you're in our session on Classroom a little bit ago, you might remember that we had a Getting Started resource from Google, and that's linked in here too. So this will have videos on how to do a lot of the different skills of what we need to know how to do with docs. So, you know, again, in the future, you can share that out with your PLC, grade level team, whatever it might be, to help make sure that everybody is on board with how to use this awesome tool. What I'd like you to do now, though, is we're going to go to Google Docs. What I'd like you to do to get there is when we're in My Drive, we're going to click where it says New, and then select Google Doc. And my computer is running a little bit slowly right now. I'm going to get rid of a couple. I'm going to close some of these other windows that I have going, and hopefully it'll make things go a little bit faster on my end. Okay, so I'm clicking New in Google Docs. And in just a second, this opens up a new tab for me. And it is titled right now, Untitled Document. I haven't given it a title yet. And that's the first step that I'd encourage you to do whenever you make a new doc, is to come up here to the top left of your screen and click where it says Untitled Document. And we're going to give this a title. So this will be, I wonder. Please notice that it does say that it's saving as soon as you do that. And that also the tab at the very top of our screen changes to this newly titled name. So it now says, I wonder - Google Docs. Something else to know is that when we go back a week from now or later today and try to find this file in our drive, that's what we're going to look for, is the name I wonder, or however you named this resource. All right, so in here, we know that we can just start typing. We can use this like a normal word processor. So I don't think that we need to spend a whole lot of time going over what that part looks like. Now, something I do want to draw your attention to is one of my favorite tools, and that's the Explore tool. So I'd like someone to unmute real quick and just tell me what is one topic that you guys are going to teach in the first few weeks back to school.
Place value.
Place value, awesome. Thank you, Deborah. All right, so I'm gonna put in place value. And what grade do you teach, Deborah?
Third.
Third grade? Oh, my wife teaches that too. Nice. Okay, so I got place value, third grade. And the next step that I'm gonna take is to go down to the very bottom right of my screen, and you'll see what looks like a speech bubble with kind of a star, a 4-pointed star in the middle. And that's our Explore tool. And you're gonna love this tool. So let's go ahead, let's type in just one topic that you might teach or something you're interested in on the main part of our screen. And then we're gonna go down to that Explore tool. Okay, so once we hit the Explore tool, it's starting to suggest, here are some topics that I might be interested in. So I'm going to find place value and make sure that that topic comes up. If you see a topic that you had written on the left-hand side, go ahead and click the topic's name. And that's going to bring up an entire Google search for you directly within your Google Doc. Now, I'm a big fan of accessibility tools and thinking through how things are designed for our learners. And if there's something that makes our processing a little easier for our kiddos, then I'm gonna be a big fan. And to me, eliminating having a bunch of tabs open makes it simple for our kiddos. So over here on the right-hand side, I see that I get these different web results. And I want to use this one from Splash Learn. So I'm going to click on its title, what is place value, definition, facts, examples. And if I find one that's helpful, so here I have a short two-sentence definition of what place value is. I simply copied, and I'm going to come back and paste it. But now I need to give credit to where this resource came from, right? Because I want to be a good digital citizen. So what I can do, when I hover over any of these resources, you'll notice in the top right-hand corner, I get a little quotation mark symbol, and that allows me to cite as a footnote. At the bottom of my screen, it comes up with, here's a name, here's the link to where it came from, and it automatically will cite it for me in 3 different formats. I can do MLA, APA, or Chicago. And I really think that that makes things pretty helpful for our kiddos and for us to make sure that we can get back to where this information came from. But not only can I do a web search result, I can search the internet for any images. And if I find one here that could be helpful for my kids, let's say, we'll go with this one. I can click on the plus sign in the corner of any of these images, and it's going to bring it in for me. So I click the plus sign, and now my picture comes in. And I love that it does this because when I click on that picture, it also gives me a link to where that picture came from. So again, there are many ways that we can add images to a Google Doc. However, the easiest one for me is using the Explore tool, and that it also gives it a link is pretty amazing. The final piece that I think you'll really like when it comes to Explore is Drive. When we click on Drive on the right-hand side, this is doing a search throughout all of my Google Drive to find other materials in it that might be connected to place value, that might have that word in it or have some allusion to it. And this helps me when I'm lesson planning or unit planning to be able to find similar ideas and be able to quickly reference them and make sure everything's prepared for that unit. So again, that's the Explore tool, amazing resource that we can easily use with our kiddos. I've shared that with many students, and they're always, their mind's blown when they're like, it can be this easy. I'm like, yes, it can be that easy. Some other features that I love to share about Google Docs are hidden within the Tools button. So if we go up to the top of our screen, we have that toolbar, and we have those different words up here, including Insert, Format, Tools. We're going to go to Tools. When we head to Tools, we get things like spelling and grammar that was added just a couple weeks ago, or sorry, about a year ago. We get things in here where we can compare different documents, but the one I want to highlight right now is voice typing. So when I do voice typing, it comes up with this icon or this box on the left-hand side, and I can click on that microphone and begin speaking. So I'm going to make my font a little bit bigger so we can all see it, and I'll start talking here. Right now, my son Miles is very interested in Minecraft, period. He spent the last half hour learning how to build in Minecraft and exploring different universes to see what it looked like in different historical time periods, period. New paragraph. How amazing is it that our students can take those times to be able to learn and explore their interests, question mark. Okay, so, in here, other than not capitalizing Miles's name, it's done a very good job of being able to take my ideas that I have in my head and put them down on this basically blank piece of Google Doc, right? And we know that for our students, a lot of times they have amazing ideas in their head, but being able to transfer them to a piece of paper or to a blank document can be very challenging for them. And so our students are able to talk through that. And I bring up Miles because a couple of years ago when he was 4, I would ask him, hey Miles, what do you wonder about? And even though he couldn't type his answer to it, he could use the voice typing to be able to put that idea down in a Google Doc. And we use the Explore tool to be able to look up this information that he was interested in. So it might be, what do ostriches eat? And we could have him answer all the or ask all the questions he wanted to, and then we could use Explore to be able to find information about it. After he reviewed the information with me so I could read to him, he would then use the voice typing tool again to be able to input, well, here's his summary of what he learned. And we could really leverage it, even though he was pre-literate at the time, to be able to allow him to explore his interest, be able to synthesize information and represent it in a few different ways. Some other things to note about our voice typing tool Right above that microphone icon, we can change the input language. So by default, it's going to be English US for us. But if we have students who are from Bolivia, then we can select Espanol Bolivia, and they can find that dialect and it'll work for them. And hundreds of different languages in here to really meet the needs of our students. Okay, so again, voice typing. I know a lot of us use it on our phone, but how amazing is it that it's also directly built into Google Docs? The other piece that I definitely want to highlight as we really try to support our students, and a lot of us doing it from home, is the translate document option. So we're going to go to tools again, and right above voice typing is translate document. So in here, it allows us to give this new document that we're about to make a new title. So this one will be French, translated copy of I Wonder. Then directly beneath this, I can choose what language I want it to go to. French. And then I select translate. And in just a moment, it opens up a new tab for me, titled what I titled it. And it has been translated into French for me. Now, I do want to pause real quick and hear from a couple of you about how this might be useful for you as we lead into the new year. So let's go ahead, and if you would like to respond to that question, go ahead and unmute for a second, and let's hear how you might be able to use the Translate tool this school year.
I think I will actually teach my son and my daughter how to use it because they're in middle school and high school taking foreign language classes, and sometimes they have to translate homework, and we don't always have the Spanish to English dictionary here.
Yeah, that can definitely be helpful to let our students be able to use it as well. Thank you, great idea. Anyone else?
I have a question. I'm a Spanish teacher in middle school.
Mm-hmm.
When the translator translates, usually there's a lot of errors, grammatical, syntactic, and things like that. How accurate is this translator?
I think you would probably, I'll be honest, I feel like you would probably be a better expert on that than I am because you are coming from that background. I know that 3 years ago, Google said that it became 7 times more accurate than what it had previously been for Google Translate because it stopped trying to translate word by word and it started doing it paragraph by paragraph. And that context just exponentially improved their translation. And I also know, I feel, and I could be, and this is definitely up for debate, I feel that being able to get some information out to our families who might speak a different language at home is going to be a better effort than just, well, it's too hard, I'm not going to put anything out there. But I know that, some districts have subscriptions to different translation tools for their formal pieces, but for day-to-day information going to our students or going to our families, this might be a helpful tool.
One last question. Is there a Spanish that says Spanish, English, and there's one that says Spanish alone, Spanish Latin America? What is the difference between Spanish USA and the normal Spanish? I understand the ones from Mexico, Bolivia, because those are different dialects, but what is the difference between those two?
I'll have to be honest, I'm not sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Just wanted to say, as a course teacher, I've actually had to deal with ESL students, English as a second language. I would think this is a way for me and them and their families to maybe communicate lyric meanings and for them to write a note about what they're struggling with and for me to read it. So it might be a crude option, but it would be an option for that.
And I'll be honest, the school that I help support, it's about 2,000 students, but we have, I think, 70 different birth countries in our school and over 50 native languages. So for our teachers to be able to make any type of impact with meeting these students and families, when we transitioned to distance learning back in March, I know that there is a biology class where they had 6 different languages spoken in that class, and also English speakers in that class. So they were able to, here's our base resource that we're using. They could make the copies for the students, and again, start to bridge that gap. It may not be perfect, but taking those first steps was really powerful for them. I see that there's a raised hand. Henri, would you like to ask your question? Is there a question out there?
I'm French, and that's what I teach. And so for the language, the translation part, the first thing is that, it gives students a good platform. But students, also there is a difference, the lady that was talking about Spanish, is always a difference between, languages. Like French Canadian is slightly different from French, from France. Okay. Another thing, student, we have is the triage part. That's where, the teacher have an input, because they go in and then they're going to have any kind of translation, and then the teacher jumps in, to help them triage the vocabulary and adjust it. That's all I have to say about it.
No, I think that's important. It at least gets a starting point. Then you could meet with an EL teacher at your school to help refine any of those pieces. I think that's definitely helpful. Thank you. All right, so we're gonna regroup and continue through our session. Thank you guys for those great ideas in here. All right, so some other things to know. I know a lot of us like fonts, so I'm gonna share that real quick. We click our font here, and in here we can do more fonts. There are hundreds of them that you can add. I've worked with a lot of teachers who get really excited when they can see all the different types of fonts you can use to really meet our students' needs. Some other things that we can do, in the top right-hand corner, we have our share button. And by default, it's gonna have this lock icon, but if we click where it says share, this is where we can really, pardon the pun, unlock the capability of Google Docs to its fullest capacity, where we can collaborate with other people. So in the top part here, and they have changed the view of this from back in the spring. So we can type in a specific person. So if I want to share with John, I can put in a message to him. I can say what type of role John will have when he goes to this doc. So I can pick from 3. He can just view it, he can comment, or he can be an editor. I'll have him be an editor for right now. I'm sending it to him, and he'll get an email about this. And when John accesses it, his icon will be up here, and I'll know who is able to see it. The other way that we can bring people in is if we click where it says share again. This time, instead of directly adding him, I can come down to where it says get link, and I can choose how I want him to engage with, or how I want people who get this link to engage as well. So I can say they're going to be viewers, they're going to be editors, or whatever it might be. Now, if you're using your school account, most likely things might be turned on, but only if people are logged into your domain. So just be aware that you might need to adjust this down here. So once I have my link, I can copy it, put it into an email, put it into Google Classroom, put it into Blackboard or whatever tool you're using, and be able to share it out. I'm going to let my dog in real quick, and I'll be right back. Okay, so we are back in here. The very last thing we're going to touch on when it comes to to docs is we can highlight any of these things, any of our text in here, and to the right we get this message, or we get the option to leave a comment. So it comes up on the right hand side, it's a circle. When I click on that, I can leave a message for whoever's also in this document, and we can leave feedback to our kiddos. All right, so at this point, I'm going to put up a slide for you. And this is going to just quickly give you a couple ideas about how you might be able to use Google Docs in your own classroom. And it says challenges. We won't really have time to go through them now, but these are challenges that you can take forward with you. So let me share those real quick. This is on slide 11, back in our overall slides. The first one is kind of just a review. It's the Padawan challenge. We've been watching a lot of Star Wars at home. And this is kind of a review of all the different features of Docs that we've been talking about. So how do you rename it? How do you share? How to use the Explore tool, things like that. And to be able to use this, you're going to go up to where it says Use Template, and then you can start adding in your notes on how to use these features. So it's kind of like a guided notes tool that you can use with your kiddos. The other ideas that we have are on the right-hand side. And these are, we have a choice board and we have a HyperDoc. And these are kind of the simplest forms of these two tools. And again, if you click on either of them, it's going to open up a template. Now, if you want to spend a whole hour looking at choice boards and HyperDocs with me, you can tomorrow. In our 9 o'clock session, we're going to be looking at both of these tools and see a ton of examples. If you have the ability to be there tomorrow at 9, I really encourage you to do so, because you will find something that you'll be excited about using with your students. So again, these are 2 or 3 different resources that you can continue to look at. If you are intrigued by choice boards or HyperDocs, please visit tomorrow's session. We have tons of spots available, and we'd love for you and maybe some coworkers to come in. All right, so we're going to transition to slides at this point. And with slides, similar to what we had before, we have a short video. We're not going to watch this one. And like we saw before, we also have the link to the Getting Started page so that you can go back and see a ton of video resources about how to use slides. But we're going to transition right to slides and begin messing around, trying some things out within our slides. So what I'd like you to do, if you still have your doc open, we're going to go to where it says File in the top left of your Google Doc. And from here, we have the option to do New, and then we're going to do Presentation. So again, within our doc, we're going File, New, Presentation. Okay. So as we did before, we want to make sure that we give our file a name. So we're going to click where it says Untitled Presentation in the top left, and we can name it whatever we want. I'm going to keep going with my I Wonder idea. And we'll notice that, again, it renames the title up at the top for us. Okay, so in slides, there are a few different things that we're going to go over. First, we're going to see how we can add new slides and the different layouts that we can do. Next, we're going to look at the different types of content we can add to our slides. And then we'll get into some aesthetic things like what themes we select and items like that. So again, starting with how we add new slides, on the left-hand side, you'll see a plus sign all the way to the left. And we want to not click on the plus sign, we want to click on that little downward arrow directly to the right of it. When we do that, it comes up with, here are 11 different layouts that we can use for our slides. For our purpose right now, I'm going to do one that has a lot of blank space. So either the title only, caption, or blank would be really good options. I'm going to do caption. And this has made a new slide for us. And for us, a lot of us, it's going to be very blank, which is great. So now that we have our blank or mostly blank slide, we're going to start to add different types of content. Now within our slides, the toolbar has some button icons that we can click on to be able to add some types of content. But most of what we're going to do is going up to where it says Insert, and we're going to start putting types of content in. So the first one that we want to do is image. When we do image for Google Slides, we have 6 different ways that we can put an image onto a slide. The first is uploading, remember, taking from our device and putting onto the cloud from our computer, and that could be from a flash drive or your computer itself. We can also do search the web. So I'm going to do that one real quick. And this allows me to do a Google search or Google image search and Most of these are tagged to be able to reuse and modify. So in here, again, I'm going to do place value, and I can pick whichever of these I want. So I'm going to do this first one and insert. And now I have my image is located in here. Now, since this is my son's I Wonder, I'm going to search something he's interested in right now, and so that's Minecraft. Okay, so we'll do this first one. So now I have an image of Minecraft in here, and I'm going to show you some different things we can do. So my image is selected, and I know that because it has my blue squares in the corners and in between on all sides. And at the very top, there's also a dot that I can click on and be able to rotate. And it tells me how many degrees I've rotated. So right now I've rotated 90 degrees counterclockwise, and now it's vertical. And I can always re-rotate to get back to 0 where it's original orientation. So I can do that type of thing using the blue dot or blue squares. I can resize it, and it will keep the dimensions for me if I do the middle, or sorry, in the corners. Some other cool things that I can do with my image is you might see what looks like two 90-degree angles that are kind of crossing over each other. That's our crop image. And if you look at my screen real quick, you'll see it here. Just to the right of crop image is mask image. I think you're gonna like this. So when I click on that downward arrow, I get different shapes that I can select. And I'm gonna turn this image into an arrow. So now it's adjusting whatever picture I put in there and shaping it like an arrow. So I can use this for all different types of things. Check out the types of shapes we can do. We can turn it into a heart, into a lightning bolt, a thought bubble, different types of arrows, speech bubbles, all sorts of things to be able to reshape what we have. If I want to ever change it, I can always click the button right next to it that's reset image, and I'm back to my regular rectangle. Another piece of adding images that I definitely want to talk about is camera. So if our students are doing physical work and taking a pic, then they could use the use camera option to be able to snap a shot. So say that we're using this, my student could use the camera and now we have their work that we can submit that way, or be able to get to our teacher that way. All right, so back to insert. We also have things, I want to make sure I show how to do a shape next. So I'm going to go down from insert to shape, and we'll get into some of these other ones again soon. And this time I'm going to, let's see, I'm going to do a triangle. And I'm drawing my shape. I'm choosing what size it will be, what dimensions it will be. And now I've got my triangle. Like we saw before, I can rotate it, I can resize it however I want. But any shape that we add to our slides is also a text box. So all I have to do to add some writing to it is do a double click, and I can start writing. So this is my triangle. And I can change the font, I can make it a different color, however I want. Some other things I can do, since I have my shape selected, I can change the color by clicking on the paint bucket. I can make it any color I want. I can change the outline. So this is called the border. I'm going to keep mine dark, but I'm going to go over to right next to that and do border weight and make it really thick. I'm going to do 8px. And then right next to that is called border dash. And I can say, I want this to be dotted, or I want this to be kind of that Morse code style. And when my students see this pattern around the outside of a shape, they might know, well, this is where I need to reflect, or this is a question I need to go back and answer, or a word I have to define, or whatever it might be. And we can use these dashes, these borders, to really help tell our students how we want them to engage and interact with the content on our slides. All right, so we've seen how to add shapes and how to add images. We're going to run through some of the other types of content that we can insert here. So we'll go top to bottom. Text box, I think we all probably have a good handle on. The next is audio. And this is taking any audio file that you have saved in Google Drive. So I'm going to add this interview. And now we get a little icon for our audio right here. On the right, we can say, when do we want it to start playing? When a student clicks on it, or it can be automatically when they go on that slide. We can have it where it loops again and again. So maybe you have some music that you want to be quiet in the background as they're watching something, or maybe it sets the mood for reading passages that are in here. You can do that. You can change the color, all sorts of different ways that you can engage with this. I know a lot of teachers are doing read aloud right now, where either students are making their own books by adding images and their own narration to it, or teachers are doing that and getting it out to students. So a lot of ways that we can use audio for that feature here. The next type of content that we can add is going to insert in video. When we do this, it pulls from two different places. I can either do a YouTube search, or I can find videos that I've posted into Google Drive. I'm going to do one from Google Drive real quick. And these are directions that I've given to a group of teachers I'm working with, so that they know how to do a certain activity that we're doing. So I've done an overview of that activity. I recorded it, and now my students can play it and watch it and make sure that they understand what that activity is. So again, being able to do a screen capture and place it directly within some slides or on our Google Classroom can really help to bridge the communication gap to our families who are serving at home. Coming back to insert, we can get in, we've already done shape, we can add tables in here, charts. So these would be graphs that we're using from Google Sheets. And the cool thing, if you make a chart in Google Sheets using data, you can link it so that if your data changes, maybe someone else submits a response to a Google form, your charts will automatically update as well, which is pretty cool. But the one thing that I definitely want to highlight for you is going to insert and diagram. And you guys are going to like this, okay? So when we do diagram, this sidebar on the right-hand side will pop up for you. And we have 6 different styles of diagrams that we can do. So if I need my students to make a timeline, I can click timeline. And in here, they have a few different formats of what timelines can look like. So I can say, I need you to make a timeline with 5 dates. They can pick whatever color they want. And then when they're ready to add that resource in, they just click on the picture they want. And now they can go in and add information about each of these stages. And again, all of that is automatically made for them, and they can just double click on any of the text and be able to put event number 1, and they can say 2002. Very easy. Now keep in mind, we have timeline, we have cause or hierarchies, processes, relationships, all sorts of great diagrams and resources that we can easily bring in and then let our kids adapt to meet their learning needs that we have for them. Back in insert, a couple final things that we can talk through. We have different types of lines. I like to use this for connecting ideas. So maybe it's whenever you have, we'll do curve. So I'm going to connect this idea to this. Okay. Probably shouldn't have picked that type of curve. Okay. So I'll just do arrow, and we're connecting this idea to this idea. And my students may say that whenever I think that these ideas are really connected, we can have it be dotted lines, or this made me think that, and we can do some cause and effect relationship ideas there. Okay. So I know we've covered a lot when it comes to the types of content that we can add in here. Some other pieces of Google Slides that are going to be helpful to know that we can do. So I made another slide in here. An important skill when it comes to slides is being able to link things, okay? So almost anything that we have on a slide can be a hyperlink to something else. So on my slides right now, I'm just gonna type in the word resource. And when I have that, I'm going to highlight the word resource and then find, I'm going to insert, and we have this option for link. When I do that, I can say where I want this link to take people. So I want it to take people to just google.com. And so when they click on the link, the word resource, it's going to, of course, take them to google.com. Now that's if I want it to be text being linked, but if I want it to be an image that's linked, I can do that similar option. So I'll just move this picture over here. And as I did before, I have the picture selected. I can go up to insert and link. And as I did, I'm going to make this go to google.com as well. And now when someone clicks on this picture, it will have that link that will take them to the resource I want them to be able to review. And we can do that with shapes. We can do that with any of these diagram options. I can turn those into links, lots of different choices with how we can get people to supplemental resources. Okay, so far we've looked at how we can insert tons of different resources in here, how we can link as well. We've looked at the different layouts of our slides. Now the final piece that I want to definitely get to is how we can adjust the theme, okay? So if we click where it says change theme, or sorry, where it says theme, it's going to come up here on the right-hand side, and we can see the ones that are already built into Google Slides. So we have ones like Beach Day that I use quite a bit, or Pop that I use quite a bit. When I click on this, it's going to go through and adjust the fonts, the background colors, the font colors on all of my slides. And it makes them have a cohesive feel. Now you can find plenty of good themes around the internet. Tomorrow, if you're in the choice boards and HyperDocs session with me, you will find plenty of amazing templates and themes that you can use. But I wanted to show you, if you're building from scratch, how you can adjust that too. All right, so the final piece that I'll highlight before we take off, we saw before when we were looking at docs, how within tools we had the Explore tool, and we have that here as well. So we can do our search directly in here. The other thing that Explore does when you're in slides is it will suggest different themes or layouts for you. So you can adjust those. So maybe we want this one instead. And they do have ones that are outside of what we saw in the regular theme button. So they're not all the same. You might find something else in here. Okay. I promise we've covered a lot. A couple final things I want to make sure we see before we leave slides. So I'm going to now switch from editing to my presenting. When I do that, I'm clicking this present button. And in here, we get some really cool tools at the bottom of our screen. So I'm going to show you what those can do. The first one I like to highlight is captions. When we are presenting to our students, we're able to have closed captioning happen in real time so that our students not only can have the auditory experience of hearing what we're saying, but they also get the visual experience. And this could be helpful for really any student, but particularly those who might have a different home language. So our English language learners could benefit, or some students who might have some hearing barriers could benefit from this as well. And you don't have to do anything. You just have it running in the background and they'll be able to see this. So that's closed captioning. Another cool tool that we can do is the Q&A feature. So when I click on Q&A, it's going to come up and give me this new box that shows up where I can advance my slides. We can also turn on audience tools. So I'm going to have a Q&A where on here it gives my students, here's a link to go to where they can start typing in their questions and I'd be able to address them. Or if you have a co-teacher, they can filter all that too. The other cool thing about the questions that they'd see here, they can upvote. So if there's something that a lot of people have the same question, then they can select and give it a thumbs up, and you know that that's the question you need to definitely address full group, whereas others might be small group questions.
I would encourage that teacher to keep in mind that my child was only. I would encourage that.
And I forgot that I added audio in there, so I started hearing my voice, and that's always fun too. All right, so at this point, I'm gonna exit our present mode, and we'll come back together and look at a couple ideas for how we might be able to apply slides in our classroom. So as we saw before, I definitely want to show you these. This will be a part of our choice boards and hyperdocs tomorrow as well. There's an awesome resource that comes from a website called Slidesmania. This is linked on slide 15. And Slidesmania is a website created by an educator, and she makes amazing resources for educators. So in here, we can see that there are digital notebook templates, there are treasure hunt activities or digital filing cabinets, and there are 19 pages of templates that you can use for Google Slides that are already built, and you can just bring them in, including class YouTube channels so that you no longer have to take students to YouTube. You can kind of construct your own using Google Slides. So some amazing pieces in here. And again, you'll have more time to explore that if you come back with us for tomorrow's session on choice boards and hyperdocs. So as we saw before, a couple different ways that we can use this moving forward. So one way I like to use slides, especially at the beginning of the year, is to let our students do an introduction slide deck where they say who they are. And this would be a collaborative one where everybody with the link would be able to edit. So in here, every one of my students had a different slide, and I would ask, who are you? What are things you're interested in? And then they can put in pictures, videos, text that represents who they are as a learner. And you know, every student puts their name at the top of one slide. That way they have their own respective place and everybody can safely share about who they are. We do have a Jedi Knight level one where you're making your own Bitmoji classroom. And again, if that's something you want to explore, we'll have more time to do that tomorrow in our session. So at this point, we are going to move into a wrap-up time period. So we will have some time in just a couple seconds. If you have questions, we'd be happy to answer those. But I do want to thank you for joining me. You can find all of my resources at bit.ly/Adam Seipel. You can also find me on social media at Adam Seipel. I'd like to thank John and Eric for being amazing moderators. I know that the chat has been pretty lively in the session, so thank you for helping out with that. Thank you to Pam and Liza from VASCL for making these this series completely free for our teachers, and that we could come together today to help serve you and your kiddos. And finally, I request that you give me some feedback so I can keep getting better as a instructor and help to work with other teachers. So if you head to bit.ly/3E76XNX, this is linked. If you're in your own copy of the slides, you can simply click and it'll open it up. John or Eric, if you can put that in our chat, that'd be great. Please fill out this feedback form. Let me know how I can better serve you. The very final question on here, on the first page, is would you like to receive a certificate for renewal credit? If you say yes, it's going to open up into a second page where you can put your email address and your name and a little bit of other information. And please make sure that you spell your email address and name correctly for your certificate to make sure that you receive it. Otherwise, thank you for joining me this morning. And if you have any questions, feel free to stick around and ask. Otherwise, after you've left feedback, you're free to take off. Thank you guys again for joining me, and have a great rest of your day.